How's it going, everyone? Scotty here, and I am going to show you how I've been doing my 410 Pyrodex loads. I am going to be using Pyrodex P, which is equivalent to a triple F, and I'm also going to be using some clay buster plastic wads and some spent shells. So these ones over here are already deprimed and trimmed and everything, but I have a couple here that we're going to show you how to do, and let's get to it. So before we get started, let's go over what I'm going to be using today. First, I have a 1/4 inch nut driver. I have a 6mm nut driver bit. I also have a T30 Torx bit, and this is going to be used for depriming the shells. We have a 1/4 inch punch, a 3/8 wood dowel about 5-6 inches long, a sharp knife that we don't need, and we also need a block for knocking out the primers. This is actually a pistol gun block that I bought, and what I did was I took a 5/8 drill bit and a 3/8 drill bit and kind of drilled it out a little bit, and what that allows is for your shell to sit in there and have a spot for the primer to be knocked through. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our nut driver and our T30 Torx bit and just drop that right in there like that. Couple whacks and it comes right out. Next thing we're going to do is take our dowel and trim the top off, and this is where the knife is going to come into play. You can just carve it off, but if you want a nice straight flush line, I find sticking the dowel in there works really good, and just kind of put it right on that crimp and then twist it in your hand, and then that'll come right off. Now you have a nice clean flush tip, and you have a deprimed shell. Next thing that we need to do is we need to resize the brass. Now on these bigger, these were actually some slug shells, and these are really heavy duty, so they don't really stretch or get out of whack like these smaller loads do. But essentially what this is a grade 8 7/16 washer, and on a good shell that's already sized, that washer just slides right on and off. But as you'll see, when you go to put it on these smaller ones, you get a little way and then it kind of stops. So this is a 1/2 inch by 3.5 inch black pipe nipple, and we are going to just pop it down like that, flip it back over, take our nut driver without a bit in it, give it a couple taps, and now we have a resized brass. So we're going to put that off to the side over here. Next thing we need to do is get a new primer in there. These are some CCI number 209 Shotshell primers. If you can even find these right now, good luck to you. When I bought the 2 packages that I have, they were only allowing 1 package per person, and I had to go back 2 different days, and they were going out pretty damn quick. So anyways, what we're going to do is, you can do this on any hard surface. I like doing it on my gun block just because it's hard but kind of soft at the same time. So set your primer on there, and then we're going to take our nut driver and our 6mm bit. Oops. Kind of get that centered and give it a couple medium hard whacks. Seated nice and flush, we have our new primer. Alright, so next we're going to do our black powder. Now I've seen all kinds of different information on this, people going by books. The person that went by a book, he did 90 grains of 2F, I believe it was, GoX, and that was for 12 gauge. I saw another guy do 12 gauge with 60 grains of powder. One guy on YouTube, he's saying he's doing 25 grains on the 410. Last loads I did were 30 grains, but I have my 25 grain nipple set up on my powder flask, so we're just going to do 25 grains on these today. Next, we're going to take our dowel and we're going to pack that down. You'll hear it crunch a little bit. When it stops crunching, you're pretty much good. Then we're going to take our shot wad, and you'll see that these are just a little long on these, and so what I do is I just trim that off. Now it's nice and flush. So next, we're going to weigh out our shot. And on these little 2.5 inch guys with a black powder, I'm getting right around 10 ounces a shot. I'm sorry, not 10 ounces, 10 grams. So we're going to weigh out 10 grams here on the scale. And this is just a regular kitchen scale. It's a nicer one, so it's fairly accurate. Accurate enough for our needs here. That's 10 grams. And I always fill over the shot, whatever you're storing it in, just in case you spill or you're a little too full. And as you can see, that's just about full. Real close to it, and that's about what we want. We don't want it too full going over the top here. And we're going to take our dowel and we're going to push that shot down just a little bit. Now the next step, you can go one of two ways. You can either do a top card, or you can do just straight up beeswax, which they say kind of makes a little bit of a sable slug, like a little bit of a wax slug. Personally, because I plan on using these for small game hunting, I really don't want wax going into my game personally. So what we're going to do is, this is a 45 gauge patch, and we're just going to slice this right down the middle. Guess that was a little less than the middle. That was about a third there. And we'll get those extra strings off. What we're going to do is fold that up a couple times, and we're going to stuff that right down on top of our shell. Now we're going to take our punch and just pack that down until it's nice and even. And now you'll see we still have about an 1/8 inch from the top, which is exactly what we want. So next, we're going to take our beeswax candle and we're going to drip wax right into the top until that whole entire top is filled up. And the first few drops are going to soak right into your wad, or your patch rather, which is just fine. But we want to get that all the way up to the top. Kind of roll it around a little bit, make sure it gets into all your edges. And if you spill any on the sides, just go ahead and get it out of there. So this beeswax cools off fairly quick, especially in the winter time here. But that's our finished shot shell. So that's what it should look like when you're all done. By the way, I'm using 7.5 shots, so that's what's going into this. Now we're going to do one more, This is going to be a 3-inch shell, but we're going to do the same process all over again, and this time I'm just going to kind of go to it and show you how quickly these can actually be done. So again, got your nut driver with the T30 bit. These 3-inch shells usually aren't too terribly on the sizing. See, that one went over fairly well. Sometimes you still need to give it a little love to get it back out of there. Now if the bit gets stuck in there, just give it a little twist and it'll come right out. So we got our prime shell. Go ahead and get our black powder in there. Ram it. Wad. Now you'll see on the 3-inch shells the wad goes down quite a bit further, so we'll be able to get a bit more shot in there. Alright. So with these I do 14 grams a shot. That's 15 there. We'll see what that brings us to. Oh. 15 was perfect. So, pack our shot. Take our patch. Because this is a little bit bigger, we'll go ahead and cut this in half. Hold that up. Now typically when I'm doing these, I'll do a bunch of them and then do all the beeswax at once and just fill them all at the same time so I'm not lighting and blowing the scene out all the time. But if you're in the field, you know, survivalist type stuff, or just, you know, on a backwoods camping trip, you know, you could do these in the field on a stump fairly easily with no issues. Again, while it's still hot, just kind of roll it around, make sure it gets all the edges. And what this does is that's going to seal it, and not only seal it to keep your shot from falling out, it's also going to make it waterproof. So, but there you have it. My 410 Pyrodex loads. I'll put a list of everything you need in the description, so you know you have everything right there. But it's all fairly simple stuff. I mean, when you break it down, you just need a hammer or a hatchet. Would work just fine. Even, you know, you could probably do it with a rock or a piece of wood or a small log or something. And honestly, You could probably do without the punch, but I just find the fit around the wad is just a little bit too tight, and I find that the wad sticks to this because it's just a hair big 2 diameter. But if you were just in the woods and you weren't doing wads, you could by all means substitute the wad out and just do a patch and pack a patch over the top of your powder. And then if you had like some cushion wad or something like that that you could put in there, you could certainly do that by all means. But I mean, and I have seen people do without the nut driver. I've seen them drive the primers with just a bit driver, but I just like having that little bit more just for clearance. But you really don't need this. I just like it because it gives a little bit more surface going around the primer. But I mean, that's all you really need right there, because you're going to have a knife on you if you're out in the woods. And you know, just for fun, we'll go ahead and weigh it all, and you're at exactly a ½ pound, 8 1/8 ounces. So not a whole lot of stuff that you really need to take with you, but you know, for survivalist, I really love the 410 for hunting in particular. Most small game that you're going to be hunting, you can get within 25-30 yards, and you know, 410 is more than sufficient to get the job done for something like that. So, not to mention a lot less powder, a lot less shot, just overall from economical standpoint, they're just very easy to do. And because they're not a very powerful load, you can shoot these over and over again, and you can get a lot of rounds out of these before the plastic and brass is going to fail on you. So, but there you have it, 410 Pyrodex loads. Hope you guys have a great day.